Fresh off the bye week, the Seminoles travel up to Death Valley to take on defending national champion Clemson. Nole Insiders, Lane Hurt and Tim Lenfeld here with you for your Nole Insiders game preview. Tim, Clemson, obviously one of, if not the best team in the country, kind of the gold standard in the ACC right now. Tough matchup for the Noles.
Yeah, it is, but it's also, Willie Taggart said it, and I agree with him. It's an opportunity, for Florida State to, in front of a national audience, show the kind of progress that they believe that they've made over the last couple of weeks. There's no better standard, there's no better measuring stick than the defending national champion. They've won, I think they're 62-4 in their last 66 games, or 63-4, something like that.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's all. They've been really, really good. They've been even better at home. They're really tough to beat there. But to quote Willie Taggart, quoting Ric Flair earlier this week, to be the man, you got to beat the man. You can't avoid these types of games. These are the types of games that Florida State as a program is used to playing in and quite frankly winning. And so it's another opportunity to show that you're closer to that.
The Seminoles defense much improved over the last couple of weeks. They're running to the ball, flying to the ball better, tackling better, covering better. It's been a lot of improvements, but whoa, is it a test this week. Trevor Lawrence, his numbers may be down, but that's probably a little bit of fool's gold for fans who understand just how good he is. Travis Etienne, T. Higgins, the list goes on, the skill position guys that the Tigers have. What can the Noles do to slow down? I don't think you can stop Clemson fully, but what can they do to slow down the Tigers?
I think what you really need is for your pass rush to have a big game, and that's going to be an even bigger challenge than it normally would be because Janaris Robinson's going to miss the first half because of that targeting penalty against NC State. An interesting thing about Clemson is they've only allowed 4 sacks this year, which is really, really good. It's among the best in the country in terms of sacks allowed, but they have allowed a lot of pressures. And Trevor Lawrence has done a really good job of avoiding some of those pressures and either converting those into running plays where he gets a few yards or scrambling and getting downfield a little bit. But at times, it has shown up in terms of his passing accuracy. His completion percentage from last year is down. His interceptions are up. He's already thrown more interceptions this year than he has in all of last year. I think the pressure has a lot to do with that. So, we'll see where does that come from. Do you try to get more up the middle and try to ride between your defensive tackles that we know are a strength, or somebody like Josh Brown or Adonis Thomas, are they going to be able to step up in that first half when Janaris Robinson is out? And then if you can keep it close when Janaris comes back, then maybe that's even something that kind of swings in your favor. But to me, the best way to slow those guys down is to rush Trevor Lawrence, make him uncomfortable, and make him have a hard time. And then the other side of it is also, we said the running game. Travis Etienne, again, his numbers haven't been as good as I think you'd expect this year either. He was over 200 yards, I want to say, in that opener against Georgia Tech. But after that, he hasn't hit 100 yards since. So to me, it's easier said than done, right? But you slow down Etienne, rush Trevor Lawrence, and maybe give yourself a chance.
Offensively, the Noles will have to find a way to score against a stout Clemson defense. I think coming into the season, the question for Clemson was, how are you going to replace those 4 studs on the offensive line? Well, apparently the answer was quite easily.
Yeah.
That group, the numbers are better. They may not be better players pound for pound, but the numbers are better right now for that defense. Can the Seminole offense get enough going? You're not going to score a ton against Clemson. Can they get enough going to keep this close going in the fourth quarter to give themselves a chance?
Well, to start off, Lane, you said it, the defensive line at Clemson is really, really good. Even missing the guys they did, I think they had 3 defensive linemen drafted in the first round last year. But the way they've recruited, you might not know these guys by name just yet, but they're really talented, good players. So what I would plan on is Florida State is not going to have a lot of time to drop back and throw the ball and scan downfield, and most teams playing Clemson don't. But that's okay. I don't think that's really what Florida State wants to do anyway. To me, it's going to be a lot of quick passes. You saw against NC State those slants over the middle. The ideal, I think, game plan for Florida State is for Canton Akers to have a little bit of success early on, make the defense commit to stopping him, try to get some one-on-one outside matchups with guys like Tamori and Terry. Ontario Wilson, you saw him contribute a little bit more, find some space maybe for Keyshawn Helton in a mismatch over the middle of the field. Try to get some of those quick routes where you can hit them in space if you can find that space really, really soon, really quickly after the snap, and then let them go to work. Now, I don't know that you're going to have the litany of missed tackles like you did against Louisville and NC State that turn 5 or 10 yard completions into 40-yard completions, but 5 and 10 yards at a time will help keep the chains moving and keep things moving in the right direction. And then, again, as I said last time, if you can do that, I think you at least give yourself a chance.
Nole's huge underdogs in this one. To me, it seems like it's a pressureless situation for Florida State, playing with some house money. Do you feel like that they have a chance to go in loose and have nothing to lose?
I think so. And look, it's an interesting situation with Clemson right now because they're the defending national champion. They've won, 20 straight games, but they also fell from number 1 to number 2 after beating North Carolina without losing a game. And if that sounds familiar, it should. It's kind of a similar situation to what Florida State had a couple of years ago when they were defending their national title.
Their game control metrics are just terrible this year.
We'll see that when the college football playoff rankings come out, what Clemson's game control looks like. But so to me, this is kind of an interesting game because what is Clemson? You know what I mean? Like, because they had their real scare against North Carolina game that they could have lost. Then they had a bye week in between. Coming out of that bye week, moving to the second half of the season, and against a marquee opponent, which Florida State still is, does Clemson go back to the 2018 form where they were blowing the doors off of teams? And if that's the case, I don't know if anybody's going to beat them. Or are they the team that's going to play close games and throw interceptions and have a hard time on offense, and their defense keeps them in it, and they leave with games that maybe leave their fans and national media feeling a little bit unsatisfied? If you're Florida State, obviously, you prefer the latter. Because if that's the case, if Clemson is slow, if they're disjointed, if Clemson has the kind of game against Florida State they had against North Carolina, Florida State's going to be in this thing in the fourth quarter. And then at that point, maybe things start getting a little tense. Things get a little nervous. That fan base, that crowd in Death Valley gets a little bit anxious, and that's where you want to be when you're trying to pull off an upset.
There you have it, Seminole fans. It's the Noles and the Tigers, 3:30 p.m. on ABC as Florida State looks to shock the world with a win up at Clemson. Of course, Nole Insiders, we will be there. We'll have all of your coverage after the game as Florida State looks to get another win. That'll wrap up things for now. For Tim, I'm Lane. Go Noles.